Welcome to Real Talk, the podcast highlighting remarkable individuals and the role that real estate has played in their success. I'm Aisha Campbell, CEO of Proven Properties. Join me as I interview Marcus Steele. Let's get started. Welcome, Marcus Steele, finance guru, former CEO of Carreras, director of Proven Wealth, and more importantly, just a great leader and a down-to-earth person. It's such a pleasure to have you on our podcast here today.
Thank you very much, Aisha. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, as I was saying before, the whole vision behind this podcast is for us to inspire and touch the audience around your story, and also how real estate has played a role, how it has woven itself in your entire success story.
Right.
Tell me about Marcus, the little boy. Did you ever think that you'd be in finance in those younger years of your life?
Well, very interesting. The straight answer to that is no. It's interesting that we're taking the angle or that vantage point of how throughout the journey our real estate impacts. I transitioned from that little boy born Payne Avenue, 25 brothers and sisters. I'm the 23rd. So just imagine having a home with at least 12 of us sitting in that home. And I call it a home because that's where we lived, but we didn't own it. And I saw that we had to run away from that home in the 80s because of the bloody election in 1980. Yeah. And then, we captured a piece of land in Grange Lane in Gregor Park, and my father put up a structure. Again, it's a home, but it's not ours.
It's not yours. You don't own it.
It's not ours.
Okay.
But that was just a par for the course because we were from a poor family, and I knew something was not right with that. It felt that I was missing something. And then I saw where my mother left and went to live in Gregor Park. Again, she lived in a home that was not hers either. Mm. And that was very interesting because it was a one-bedroom. She lived with her partner because she had left the home. And my sister, both of us, we went to live with her in the same one-bedroom. And the mother of her partner didn't want us there. So we lived through that as youngsters, being in a home that's not ours,
really
and
yours.
We were not welcome there.
Yeah.
So whilst that was not at the forefront of my mind at 11 years old, I felt the impact of that. And I knew I had to change that for my mother, to be honest. And, I got the opportunity to go to St. Diego High School, then on to the university. And the first thing I said to myself was that I need to purchase a home for my mother,
Awesome.
Not for me. Because I saw, for example, how she struggled. We had to face the humiliation of persons saying to us, listen, get out of my house. And I wanted to change that for her, even long before I decided to change it for myself.
Okay. So, education.
Yes.
Taking advantage of the opportunities that were afforded to you.
Yes.
This was a path that would allow you to attain some of the goals that you had, one of which, as you said,
yes,
was to own a home for
yes.
your mom.
Yes.
Right? Because, this is important to point out that real estate is not just the block and steel. It represents a lot more.
That's correct.
In your case, it would have represented security, peace of mind, all of those things for your mom.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is, and Aisha, you're absolutely correct because I remembered, and by the way, it was at the time when you had to get points at the NHT to even be qualified for
For a loan.
And poor my mother, who was bouncing from one job to the other, wasn't able to accumulate
The points.
So, there was a point in time when that was sort of a dream. And then one day she called me and she said, I received a letter from NHD, and they opened in Cumberland in Gregor Park in Portmore.
In Portmore, yeah.
Yes. They had a scheme, and she got a letter that she qualified.
So she
to
actually
get it.
qualified, okay.
Yes. However, she couldn't find the money, so of course she came to me. It was a one-bedroom. Sorry, it was a quad, not a one-bedroom. It was a quad. That has everything in it.
Yes, a starter.
But
At least it's a start with your own land.
It was home, and it was hers.
Yes.
Because our name, whilst our name, names were on the house title, she knew and I knew that was for her, not for me. And I saw I saw a change in my mother when that happened, because now she's able to do what she wanted to all along to have done. And this was such a great thing for her, because she thought she would never in her lifetime own a home.
Attain that dream.
And I really wanted her that to happen for her. And I saw how that inspired and motivated her.
Very inspirational.
Yes.
But that was just a start.
Indeed. Indeed it was. And if I may?
Yes.
So then, because my mother, her joy is always to have a lot of grandchildren and her children. So
Yes.
that one quad wasn't sufficient. So what I did, I got an opportunity to go abroad to work in Costa Rica. And I spent my first 2 years saving to build up that home for her. I improved it from a quad into
that same home
into a 3-bedroom house. And again, I saw how that uplifted her.
Okay.
Because now she has the peace of mind, the sense of security. She can have her grandkids around.
Yep.
And most importantly, she can call it her own. We should not underestimate the impact of that, because that peace of mind that it gives, it's just remarkable. And I lived that with her. And this was long before I even thought about having my own home, because I said my mother, I wanted her to be comfortable first. So that gave that comfort.
Right. So that was your first order of business.
That was my first order of business. That is correct. Which is
great. All right. So then we move on, and you've moved on in your career.
Right.
And you're now CEO of Carreras, right?
Yes.
And getting top CEO awards. Right. And what else did you venture in terms of some of the investments in real estate, and why? Apart from your mom, why else would you go out there and purchase real estate as an asset? And also being in finance, I'd love to hear your take on that.
Sure. I joined Carreras as the management accountant, and I worked my way up to being the finance director of the company. Having completed, I did the ACCA whilst I was at KPMG.
Yes.
I was awarded by the institute the highest average ever at the time, and that's how I ended up at Carreras, because I came an Ian Boyne profile at the time, because that was something he thought was remarkable and to share
with the ACCA group.
Yes, that was in 1997. So that was my first inspirational story. This boy from Payne Avenue, lived in captured land, went, to St. Jago High School, came out, did the ACCA, and was awarded the highest average ever. I thought that was remarkable. And he thought so too, so we had that interview. And I recognized then that there's something that I also needed to do, and was to give back to society. So I started to partner with some communities in terms of venturing in their give talks like these, motivational, inspirational conversations and engagements. I did quite a bit of of engagement with schools as well, their boys' days, at their graduation, and they always wanted to hear about that inspirational story. I moved on from being the finance director to become the CEO of Careers. Now, even at that point, because I was focusing primarily on ensuring that my mother was okay, at that point I didn't own a home for myself. Not yet. Absolutely not yet.
So you were renting?
I was still renting, and I mean, renting is good, but I hate it. I don't like it. You know, I hate to move. I hate to, you know, I hate to pack up and move. I hate to think that someone at some point can come say to me, you know, Marcus, thank you very much, but we need your house. So whilst it was a home, I made it a home because that was the reality for me at the time. It was not my house.
Yes, again. But at least this time your mom was...
Oh, she was fine. She was fantastic. She was fine. Then I had my first son. So I said, okay, now it's time to get a home for myself. And I can tell you, the purchase of the house for my mother wasn't so bad because we got some help from NHG and the deposit was not very high.
When was this? This was in the 19...
This was in the 19... Yes, in the 90s.
1990s.
Yes, in the 90s. However, when I identified... Yes, because
that's when they did the quads in Greater Portmore,
That is correct. Yes. That is correct. However, when I found, a house that I said, okay, I could invest in, and the deposit was very high. And I said to myself, you know, I'm going to do this because of the security it gives, the peace of mind it gives, and also it's an investment in self, because this is for me.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things that I would want others to think about as well, is I love peace of mind. I like to know that when I finish work and I go home, I'm in a place of solace where I can dial down. But at the same time, you could do this anywhere. But when it is also yours, that added impetus to be comfortable and to be stress-free in an environment where you can call it yours, it's remarkable. And I would implore everyone to think about it that way. So the challenge I had though, Aisha, is that when I paid that deposit, I was broke. I had no money.
That was it. All your cash.
All my cash just disappeared. And it took me a while to adjust to that because I always said to myself, I need a buffer.
So you paid the deposit and you got financing for the balance?
Yes, I got financing for the balance, through one of the mortgage companies.
Okay.
Yes, the point I want to make, which is, I believe I want to make it a very important point, is that when you make an investment like that, it's okay to feel, in Jamaican parlance, broke. You don't have no money. And you are going to feel that way. Believe it or not, you will. But it's all good.
It is. Real estate is not a short-term investment. You can't look at it through a short-term lens, because I'm sure now when you look back, yes, you were broke for that period of time, but whatever it is that you invested in that home, in terms of value on the market and otherwise, it has panned out, it has paid off.
Absolutely.
Over the medium to long term.
Absolutely.
And I think that's an important point to make for our audience as well, that in the moment, it may seem scary. It may seem, as you say, you're broke. You may think, how am I going to make ends meet when that mortgage payment starts to kick in?
That's right.
But it's worth pushing through.
No, it is. But I also had a plan, although I believe it was a 25-year mortgage, I knew that I'm going to clear this thing in 10 years.
Okay.
So I had a goal. So what I started to do, apart from just paying the mortgage, I set aside, because they based on how the mortgage company work, you can't just immediately go in and just pay it off.
Yes, there's sometimes penalties,
there's a huge penalty for
Correct. So just for people to know sometimes.
A huge penalty. But if I kept the plan, which was to pay it off in the shortest possible time.
Right.
And I did that in 12 years after I was able to clear off that.
So you cleared off a 25-year mortgage in 12 years.
Yes.
Because you had that as a goal.
Yes, that is the important point. It was a goal. So it's something, so as long as you have that as a goal and as long as you stick to that goal, it is very possible. So now I have my own home.
Right.
Unfortunately, my mother is not around now, she's deceased. But that home, interestingly, it is now the home of my brothers.
Okay.
Yes.
So you still have it.
So we still have it
You still have the
because
home.
it's now it's now part of the family.
Yeah.
Yes. So that peace of mind and comfort that I was able to give to my mother, my brothers are enjoying that peace of mind.
And this is where we're going to talk about generational wealth.
Yes.
This is where we're going to talk about you're buying it today. It's an asset that's real talk. It's an asset that you can pass down.
That's correct.
To your children. You can leave it for relatives. And so that's also another reason to think, let me push through and let me make that sacrifice and let me actually own that real estate and that home.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's correct. And that's what actually happened in that first home because, as I said, I am from a relatively poor family, and for my brothers to even call anywhere a house where they say they own would be very difficult. But one of the things that my mother taught us is to be together, and my father as well. Why get rid of that when you can pass it on and allow the next generation to be comfortable? Why not? It's part of our existence on earth. It's not just to be selfish, but also to help others. So they as long as they take care of it, I'm good with that. Which is what I said to them. Your mortgage is just taking care of the house. But
great to have a brother like Marcus, right?
But I do try. And again, similarly to my kids. I have a son and I have a daughter, so I have two kids.
Yeah.
And between us, my home and their mother, we have another home. Mm-hmm. And the idea is to pass it on to them. Yes, so that at least they get the peace of mind and comfort that they have somewhere that they can call not just a home, but a place where they have a vested interest in.
It's theirs.
So that's where we part the generational wealth. And anything you can do for the next generation to transition, we should. I'm
passionate about that because I feel we're here so that we take it up a notch. The next generation takes it up another notch, but we leave them in a better place than perhaps we started.
Right.
And that's a part of the journey. That's a part of the circle of life, right? So I think, and of course, we're going to anchor it back around real estate being just one of those key pillars that you can use. When you look at wealth and wealth creation, and you look at, some of the top investors and wealthy people across the world, they have real estate is definitely a significant part of their portfolio.
That is correct.
They own land,
right.
They own, commercial buildings. And we're not saying that you have to go to that extreme, but every little piece that you can invest in helps to build up that generational wealth.
You would appreciate, Aisha, that real estate, similarly to gold, they hold the value. At least they hold the value, and in most cases, you increase the value over time.
Yes.
If you're in it to call it a home, whilst that value is not realized until you sell it, the value is there in the event of an emergency. Because I've seen others who had to tap into the equity of their homes to be able to resolve issues that they would not otherwise would have been able to do if they had not done that. So I think that is a very important point to understand on the real estate side as well.
Yep, it's real.
It is real.
I'm gonna keep saying that. It's real.
It is real. It is real.
Yeah, it's real. It's tangible. It's real. And as you said, for the most part, it holds its value. Let's circle back to some of the mentorship that you've done in those communities.
Yes.
And what sort of advice would you give to a young person starting off, probably having challenges? You're coming out of university. Let's take that scenario. You still have student loan. You think, Lord, this is an insurmountable task. I will never own a home. Plus the prices are way up there.
Right.
What sort of advice would you give them? How would you tell them to approach this?
Okay. What I can do is to share how I approached it, because it can vary depending on the individual.
Absolutely.
And I used to say this to others. I have what I call buckets. Now, what do I mean by that? If I have a plan to purchase a home or a car, or to pay off a loan, I create what I call buckets. So bucket number 1 is my car bucket. Bucket number 2 is my house bucket. And bucket number 3 is my get rid of loan bucket.
Okay.
And I will deposit out of my income a certain amount in that bucket. And it's untouchable. So It's not, why I put it into buckets is because if you don't do that and be disciplined enough, something else can remove that funds from that bucket. But I am a very disciplined person. So
yes,
if I say that is the bucket, then that is the bucket.
Yes.
So one of the things the suggestions to challenge is that level of self-discipline around things. And it's not just about, things of value, but just about simple things, Just be focused and disciplined.
And when you make it a habit,
then it becomes the norm.
It becomes the norm.
Yes. I used to call it the bucket approach.
The bucket approach.
The bucket approach. Then you're on your way, because I remembered that is the approach where I was able to pay off my home in 12 years instead of 25 years. I have no loans. At this time in my life, I have no loans because I get rid of them using the bucket approach. Doesn't mean that loans are bad.
Yes.
Yes, but if you don't have to have a 25-year loan
and pay that extra interest cost,
then why exactly?
Why would you want to do that?
Exactly. Now, the caveat around those buckets be that sometimes there are going to be persons eyeing those buckets as well, meaning family, friends.
Competing priorities.
But you have to be disciplined to say that is not available. And you have to be disciplined to self as well.
Yeah.
Yes, because you may think, it's my money, so I can do what I want. No, it's not yours. It's the house money. It's the car money. It's the children's money,
Right.
And I'm very disciplined like that. So I was able to categorize and set aside those kind of things.
That's great advice. That's great advice.
But one of the things, just be focused. Enjoy life. You still need to enjoy life. Don't believe that I wasn't enjoying life. I was enjoying life, but I categorize things.
So you had an entertainment
bucket. Right, I do have.
You had an entertainment and enjoy life bucket.
That is correct. That is correct.
There was a certain amount set aside for that.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. And I don't venture into other buckets because that one is empty. No.
So what I'm getting from you is discipline.
Yep.
Patience, because the bucket approach, you're not going to fill the bucket in one day.
No.
You're not going to fill it maybe in 1 year. But if you're disciplined around it and you're, steadfast in achieving that goal, eventually you're going to have that deposit for your next studio or deposit for your next home, and so that's really great advice.
No, yes. And it works, and not for most things. But it comes from you. So one of my personal motto is my today's best should be my tomorrow's worst. So what I'm trying to do is I run my own race. I stay in my own lane. I only glance to the left and to the right only to see if there's something I can do better for self, to the left or to the right. So I'm not competing. I'm competing with myself.
Yes.
And as a result of that, I'm outdoing myself all the time.
Yes.
And you may end up winning the race by outdoing yourself without even thinking about the other lanes. You apply that approach, you'll realize I could apply it to anything. You know, whether it is, you know, being the best father for my children, whether it is being, you know, to be the person who provides the best security for myself and my kids, peace of mind, you know, anything. It's about me and how can I outdo myself.
Right.
And if you take that approach, then you discard all the noise around you.
Noise.
A lot of noise and distractions.
The noise is real.
Yes.
The noise is there. The noise can be distracting.
Very much
The
so.
noise can make you veer off of the goal because you're trying to be like this person or
That's
like
correct.
that person. And in doing that, you kind of lose yourself. You lose your focus.
That is correct.
So I like that. You're in your lane. We're talking about continuous improvement at an individual level.
Right.
And the underlying thing is that discipline.
Yes.
That's going to get you there and
Yes.
help to get you where you are today.
Yes, and it is I'm going to share a little brief story with you, just using that same point. I'm now doing my doctorate at Florida
gonna get to
International
that.
University.
On leadership.
Yes, and my dissertation will be on authentic leadership. And one of the reasons for that is, having been a CEO around the Caribbean, worked in the Caribbean and Central America, I recognize that a lot of the failures that I observed, a lot of it because of lack of leadership skills. We have very good, competent, functional people, but for some reason we're getting it wrong. And I really try to understand why. But I ventured into authentic leadership because I was first introduced to that when I did a program at Harvard University, and I recognized that it resonated very well with me, and I saw where I can apply that. And I applied that when I was at Carreras.
When you were at Carreras,
and it worked very well.
Yep, we saw that in your accolade, and even in the feedback from people who have worked with you, saying, yes, this is a great leader.
Thank you very much for that. So I always believe we should always have impact.
Yes.
And that experience that I would have had interacting with others, I always say to myself, when they exit the conversation, are they exiting it better off than when they entered it?
Yeah.
And that is always something that I have at the forefront. But the point I want to make is I started off in my first year at Florida International University. It took a little while to adjust. So I was focusing on self. In other words, using that motto of my today's best should be my tomorrow's worst, I started to focus on how am I going to get through this. And I did. I'm now on a summer break. But about 5 weeks ago, I saw an email pop up, and it said that congratulations, the university has nominated you into this honor society, and I said, but this must be a scam, because I didn't know anything about it. But when I read it further, it started to speak to me being in the top 5% of the program.
Congratulations.
And I said, thank you very much. But I said to myself, but I didn't even know that exists. So I wasn't even competing for that.
Yes.
I was trying to make Marcus Steele a better person than how he entered the university.
Yes.
And generally what I recognize is that if you do that, the results will come.
They will.
They will come.
They will.
Yes. So I wasn't competing with anybody in there. Yes. When I did the ACCA, I wasn't competing with anybody. When I got the top CEO in Jamaica, I wasn't competing with
any other CEO.
No. What I was trying to do was to make Carreras better at the time when that happened, and that is the result of it. What I was trying to do was to make Marcus Steele better, and that's the result of that. And I recognize that when you don't have to focus on others and focus on self, you're going to get the job done. and you will be rewarded in the end. The universe will take care of that.
Yeah.
And I think it makes you a better person as well, because you don't develop ill will against others.
Correct.
Because everyone can win.
Yes.
I don't understand.
There's enough for all of
for
us.
everybody.
It's a huge world, a huge space. And so I totally get what you're saying. And this is some really great advice. And I mean, so these are like life lessons that can help you along the way in anything that you're trying to do and any goal that you're seeking to achieve on a personal level, on a professional level. And that's about knowing who you are.
Yes.
And being okay with who you are and showing up as Aisha Campbell, showing up as Marcus Steele.
That is correct.
And being unapologetic about it.
Absolutely.
Right?
And those are the primary variables within the whole definition of authentic leadership. But another thing that you haven't mentioned, but is very important in it, is that as a result of you turning up as Aisha or as Marcus, you allow yourself to be vulnerable.
Yes.
Now, a lot of persons, they're very scared. Yes.
Yeah.
But if you're authentic, vulnerability is something that you can control and you can influence. So it is something that, and by the way, when you're an authentic person, it doesn't matter who is in the room, the sky is always blue. And that is, I've always said this, because I've seen, a lot of my experiences where the sky color changes depending on who is in the room.
That's true. That is very true.
So,
yes.
It's blue, but somebody comes in and they said, well, but I think it's red. And then you start to personalize and say, listen, if I don't say it is red, how does that impact me?
Yeah.
But then you don't stand for something. So if you don't stand for something, then anything will do. And that's not authenticity.
No, it's not. It's not. Well, Marcus, thank you very much. But before you go, I just want you to, if you had to say one word of wisdom to sum it all up to somebody that's, as I said, starting out in their career, starting out in their investment journey, whether it's real estate or otherwise, because, this is proven. So we also have other asset classes. I'm going to be talking about real estate, but whichever one, what would you say to them?
Okay, that's a very good question. Thank you. Buju Banton says it's not an easy road. Life is just not an easy road. But it's a road that you can traverse with a lot of rewards. And a lot of rewards will come with a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles. But I want you to see hurdles not just as an obstacle to stop, but to pause. Because when you make that pause and rethink and do some self-introspection, you realize that you're able to jump over those hurdles. And throughout my life, I've had many of those. And what I did was to pause. There's nothing wrong in pausing. There's nothing wrong in reflecting. And there's nothing wrong in slowing down. What is important is have your sight on the goal. Whether it is your family goal, education, health, real estate, it does not matter. The behaviors are pretty much the same. So my challenge to you would be hopeful, go for it. There will be failures, but learn from them. Don't be too hard on yourself, but be real with yourself. And seek advice, because there are a lot of successes out there. Somebody would have done it before. Somebody would have been, would have set the foundation and the pillars are there for that success. But go for it. And as long as you stick to your plan, stick to the buckets. If you have your buckets, as I mentioned, stick to your plan and make yourself the central focal point. As I said, my today's best should be my tomorrow's worst, and it should be yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marcus.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I hope you have all learned a lot. from this inspirational story, inspirational journey, and the nuggets of advice that have been dropped throughout our conversation.
Thank you, Aisha. It is indeed a pleasure.